All righty. Well, thanks for everybody for joining. Let's go ahead and kick things off. Before I dive into what is Transparent Path and some of the team members, let's begin with a couple housekeeping items. Please do remember that we want to keep this as interactive as possible. So please use the Q&A functionality in Zoom. There's also a chat function, but Q&A functionality does work better so I can make sure I can track all the questions and get to them in an orderly manner. Also, please know that this is being recorded and will be posted on NetCapital's YouTube account. So do keep that in mind, and we will make sure to share this with all the people that registered and weren't able to attend. Lastly, as always, Transparent Path is actively fundraising on the NetCapital platform. So if you want to follow up and learn more information and go ahead and invest, feel free to visit netcapital.com and search Transparent Path, or you can go directly to netcapital.com/companies/transparent-path. And I'll go ahead and include that in the chat for everybody here. But again, this is actively fundraising and you can invest right now for as little as $99. So with those housekeeping items, thank you so much everybody for joining us. Thank you to our panelists, Eric Weaver and Sunil. Eric, maybe you want to kick us off. I'd love, before we dive into the team, which I know is one of the most important things for investors, why don't you just tell us a little bit about Transparent Path and what you guys are doing?
So thanks, Eric. I appreciate being here, and I appreciate those of you who've dialed in. This is a concept that started while I was with Xerox. We were trying to combine new blockchain service offerings with our printed IoT sensors. Xerox PARC, which is very well known for its research and development of everything from the laser printer to Ethernet and the mouse, had been developing printed sensors that were literally the size of a label. So you can, I don't know if you can see here the electronics behind that. At the same time, we were pitching clients that were looking for supply chain solutions. They were looking for a way to track what happened to, for example, chocolate from the time that it left the factory, went into a cargo container, was completely off the grid until it arrived, and then only to find out to everyone's dismay that half of the chocolate had melted because it was put next to the engine room or whatever. Long story short, I took the concept, which was very interesting to our Xerox customers, and took it on the road and created Transparent Path in 2018. We did our first pilot last year where we tracked apples from a large Michigan pack house all the way through to retailers around the US and proved the concept that the IoT technology could feed a blockchain and could create this transparent path of provenance. We decided after that proof of concept that we needed to make this enterprise grade, scalable, secure, and interoperable, and brought on board a team of rock stars to help me do this, including Sunil, who's here, as well as Mark Kammerer, Lauren Adler, and other folks on the call. So that's how we got here today. We appreciate NetCapital and we appreciate folks' interest in what we're doing. We believe it's the future of food. In fact, the future of perishable goods of any kind. And so I'm happy to answer any questions.
That's fantastic. And Sunil, I'm not sure if you wanted to add anything on the quick intro before we dive into teams, but I'd love to welcome you into this conversation as well.
Sure. Thank you, Eric. And thank you, Eric, from Transparent Path as well. and I came on board because I believed in providing complete visibility across the food supply chain. And my background is in the software area and primarily around software platform. I worked at Microsoft for many years and also at my own startup for a few years before I decided to come on board to Transparent Path because I believed in the vision of providing complete visibility all across the food supply chain. So I'm glad that I'm invited to participate and looking forward to answering anybody's questions.
Thank you so much for that, Sunil.
One thing I want to add to another thing that brought us all together that I should mention is the social purpose aspect of what we're trying to do here. Everyone can flip a startup. Everyone can anyone can build a tech platform, but we've all been doing this for a while, and we wanted to do something that gave back. We wanted to do something that created a positive impact on the planet. And given the amount of food waste that happens out there, and people who have perused our page on Net Capital have seen this, there's just a criminal amount of food waste that's happening in the world. At the same time that the population is exploding, we have growing food insecurity and food inequality here in the States, which I don't think we've ever seen at levels like we're seeing right now. And there's no reason for it other than the technology is dated and is kind of, best practices of 1985. So there's a social purpose here for us. I think it's important to mention that we want to help, that we're brought together around wanting to help fix that also, in addition to launching this startup with all these super cool, sexy technologies. So just wanted to throw that out there too.
That's a very important piece, Eric. Thanks for sharing that. And I love the common purpose that your whole team shares. And we've spoken a little bit about your background and Sunil's, but I'd love it if you could dig a little deeper and then also tell us a little bit about Mark and Lauren and the rest of the team as well, please.
So my background is in software and marketing and AI. Launched a couple of things. Sunil's launched an amazing startup measuring health by using photo, and Sunil will kick me if I get this wrong, using analysis, analysis of people's gaits to address health issues, identify health issues. The rest of the team are all similar rock stars. Our Chief Commercial Officer, Mark Kammerer, former general manager of Expedia, also previous experience on the brand side for Pillsbury and General Mills, so a very strong food background. Mark also has been a board member of Food Lifeline, which is one of the biggest food banks in the Northwest. My wife and I have been involved in feeding the homeless, delivering food to homeless shelters. So food has been this sort of central theme that has continued to come up in our lives. Additionally, we have Greg Lind, who is a known open source expert who has started STEM NGOs in Africa around food. Paul A. Wood is our director of experience. Paul A. Was in charge of user experience for Amazon Last Mile, particularly overseas, globally in third world countries. So how to get goods to final destinations across the world. Perfect background for us. And finally, Lauren Adler, our director of product, has just an amazing background as a former Wall Street analyst, former head of supply chain integration for Amazon. So we've got this really sort of rock star team of dare I say, older folks who have been around the block and who have not only worked in corporate America for large enterprises, but also have this food connection and have launched some related startups as well.
Yeah, I think the team that you've been able to assemble, I think, is a testament to you, Eric, and to the product that you're building here. It's easy to get behind, and it is something that I think people recognize as a problem. And of course, I'm going to segue myself here. Speaking of problems, you alluded to the problem of food waste. Can you dig a little deeper into the metrics on how big of a problem that really is?
Well, just here in the States, it's a $218 billion a year problem. And this is according to a number of sources, including National Resources Defense Council, the United Nations, et cetera. Globally, it's a $1 trillion problem. The thing that sort of shocked me into wanting to drill down into food supply chain was numbers from Maersk, one of the big global shippers of food product, who put forward a number of 75% of all food waste occurs before it gets to the grocery store. So this isn't a matter of you not eating all your mashed potatoes and scraping them into the trash on Thanksgiving. It's really inefficiencies and a lack of data integration across the supply chain for food. And this isn't just food we're talking about wasting here. We use 24% of all of our fresh water in the United States to grow food that goes straight into a landfill because of inefficiencies in the system. We're draining our aquifers to grow food to throw away. I mean, right there, that should set off some concerns for people. And it's not also, it's oil. We're digging, according to the University of Texas study, we're digging 350 million barrels of oil, pumping it out of the ground every year to grow food that goes right into a landfill. And then you've got labor. How many people are working to grow that food, to have it go right in the landfill. Now, no one wants that to happen, of course. Farmers don't grow food to throw it away. But the conundrum here, the challenge is that the margins are so razor thin over time in the United States. They've been whittled down to pennies. And because it's a pennies business, it's very difficult to justify upgrading the technology. It's like a 1963 Chevrolet in Cuba. People know how to maintain it. It's still running amazingly. It's highly polished and looks great. It'll get you from point A to point B, but it's a 1963 Chevy. So we have all this amazing technology that is active in other sectors for tracking minerals, for example, to make sure they're not coming from conflict nations or diamonds. We have things for tracking pharma. Why not food? And that's what we're bringing to the table is taking this, providing this 2020 technology, 2021 technology into an industry that is a little bit not reticent, but just has some pressures on it, price pressures that have kept that 1963 Chevy going.
No, absolutely. And I think you mentioned 2020, and there's a lot going on this year. I think a lot of people are looking forward to 2021. Can you talk a little bit about how the impacts of COVID have maybe potentially exacerbated the situation, or is there an impact that the coronavirus has kind of reared its ugly face in this space?
Coronavirus, it's a great question, Eric. Coronavirus has really sort of ripped off the mask, no pun intended, on the food supply chain because of the fact that it's more fragile than we thought. And it works great if there's labor, a steady supply of dependable labor. I mean, that's what coronavirus has really impacted. For example, pickers in the field who are picking cherries, apples, row crops, etc. When there's a shortage of them, then the growers have to pay people to basically to pay them more to get that food from the field because their competitors are scarfing up these tight resources. Also, they can't raise the prices at retail because no one has money to buy groceries. So we have this incredible pressure from both ends on price that have thrown a lot of things into a loop. We've got demand and supply mismatches where you saw the articles earlier this year about farmers plowing crops under or giving away potatoes in a stadium, whereas food banks, there's a line for food banks miles long. So the demand supply mismatch has been going on. There's also shortages of drivers. Drivers early on didn't want to go to states like New York, which had a very high infection rate early on. And they weren't going to pick up loads in those states to bring back to make the trip profitable or to break even. So Corona really sort of uncovered this inherent vulnerability across the whole supply chain for food. That we know that visibility will when we have visibility into all the different parts, we can then address them. And even more importantly, we can apply predictive and prescriptive analytics to anticipate stuff, Minority Report style, in the future when to anticipate disruptions and offer prescriptive advice at the time.
That's actually a perfect transition. Very, very clear problem, kind of made aware to some people who might have been missing it through 2020 and the coronavirus. And then let's talk a little bit about this hardware software solution. You talked about predictive analytics and you showed a little bit about the tags. Let's take a deep dive into what Transparent has from a product line standpoint.
Sure. So I'm going to back up just a little bit to the B word, blockchain, because there's a lot of buzz. There's been a lot of buzz for the past 2 years about blockchain for food, which to me is like saying freeways for food. It's a tool. It's a wonderful technology. I love blockchain. I'm a huge proponent of it, but it's a hammer looking for nails, in my opinion, in many of these use cases. And we see competitors still going blockchain for food. That's great. But they're also talking about it only in the context of traceability. Like if there's a recall, how do I trace back where that bad food came from? This is newsworthy right now because we're seeing more and more recalls due to things in the supply chain. All of that said, blockchain has the ability to create immutable lies that can't be changed, garbage in, garbage out. It's all about the data that you put in. And that's why our solution is to use sensor technology like this, to automate the gathering of data into a food supply chain management system. When you look at big platforms that are out there currently, and I won't name names, there's a manual data entry requirement. Well, if you're a penny's business, are you going to pay someone extra to type data into a system for maybe one recall a year, maybe for your traceability platform? To me, that is not only a non-starter, it also ignores the bigger picture, which is the end-to-end visibility of what's happening. If I can use sensor data, and if I can use these gateway devices, which we source from Intel, to constantly transmit the temperature, humidity, light, GPS of that food shipment, regardless of which truck it goes into, regardless of where it is in the country or in the world, if I can use this technology to constantly tell me where that food is and what's happening with it, then I can start to do really interesting things like bring the supply chain into the future. I can tell when something's starting to go sideways, someone has left a refrigerated trailer door ajar, the seal's broken, whatever, they've stopped to deliver a load and they left the freezer doors open for 4 hours. As soon as I see that happening in this system, I can alert the driver to say, dude, you're gonna lose a $400,000 load of crab if you do not address this immediately. So, most of supply chain happens in the past, that we use loggers like these little data loggers, and people say, well, how are you different from this? These record data, and they get that data after the fact. They may plug it into USB, they may download the information, but it's all in the past, and it's all to justify what happened if something goes wrong. It's like an insurance policy. This turns our platform into an operational tool for today to not only save money by saving loads, but also our system can provide a record of proof about how long it took the product to get to retail. So now I'm able to get, if I'm a food producer, a higher price at the sales desk of the retailer. So I'm making more money because I can prove that I got it there faster than anyone else, and I'm saving money because I stopped the load from being lost during shipment. So I'm hoping that answers your question, Eric, and I don't want to rat hole too much because, as you can tell, I get started and it's hard for me to slow down, but let me know if that answers that question specifically.
No, I think that was perfect, Eric. We're talking about proactive, actionable data, and that's one of the big differentiators from you and other players in the space. And you showed us the hardware, and it was really helpful to see the 2020 hardware. Let's flash forward for a moment, if you will. Sure. Can you tell me a little bit about the future of Transparent Path, about proof tags and the proof platform?
So this is probably a bad example. I use this as a prop. This is a can of corned beef that came from Brazil, contaminated, and I picked it up in my local Safeway because the system was broken. And you can see here on here an example of what the proof tag might look like. This is what we're going for. Probably 2022. This kind of time frame is the idea of a two-ply tag where the customer or the consumer can scan this and tell where this product has been, what happened to it, how it got to them. And that's really where we're going for. The Intel tech is great. It's big, it's bulky, and it's electronic. So as these things inevitably end up in a landfill, they're going to, lead, copper, plastic. We don't want this kind of stuff in the waste stream. These labels can be produced in a way that is where they're biodegradable and water soluble, so that we're not adding to, we're not creating a net positive on a waste stream for electronics. So if you look at the overall roadmap of our company, we started with this idea of a proof of concept, which was successful. We built out the platform, got that finished this fall, and now we've integrated the existing sensor platform that we're using into our software, but we're moving over the next couple of years to this printed sort of technology, and we're talking to folks that source that right now. We're talking to my former colleagues at Xerox about creating that technology, but that's really exciting stuff. There's a cost to all of these. Now, we're different in that we offer these as a subscription, just like your T-Mobile, get the latest phone thing, We're doing the same kind of thing with our technology, but what we want to do is really bring that forward, because this has a higher cost than a printed sensor might be. It's bigger, it's bulkier. It's state of the art for now, but we're going to change the state of the art for 2021, 2022.
So it sounds like we'll have similar functionality, but more eco-friendly and a little bit easier to use, and probably even more better unit economics, more cost-effective. Sounds like same great taste, lower calories. What we're talking about in 2022. And you mentioned that monthly subscription fee, and maybe this would be a good opportunity to bring in Sunil or maybe Eric to want to field this. But can we take a deeper dive into the revenue model?
Sure. We see revenue coming primarily from this platform as a service subscription model. It's been proven by some of the other companies out there, proven by sensor companies, proven by platform companies, that customers don't want to have CapEx, especially now during coronavirus. They would rather have OpEx, where they can opt out at any time if it's not working out. We're seeing some dashboard overload by some folks who subscribe to these platforms, but none of them talk to each other. And that's another thing that we're bringing to this is using APIs to make and sort of global standards to make sure that we're integrated, so we're not adding to dashboard fatigue. But the main source of revenue will be from this platform as a service. We also have customer support, sort of ongoing support contract revenue. We have consulting revenue baked in there where we're able to add. And I see Lauren and Mark have joined also as panelists here. So I'd like to, Lauren, I don't know if you can go on camera or not, if you want to elaborate on this a little bit for attendees.
Sorry, I wasn't expecting.
Sorry. Well, you guys just appeared and it was like,
yeah, that we just rejoined. I guess we rejoined as panelists. Was not expecting that.
Sorry.
So Eric, can you just recap what you were just asking me?
So we were talking about revenue model, and I was mentioning how platform as a service, a subscription model, pay as you go, join when you want, quit when you want is the way to go, and that other companies have proven that this model works, that there's an appetite for that versus CapEx. Also that there would be some support and potential onboarding revenue also. Is there anything I'm missing there that you'd like to talk about more?
I think we also are, and I think Sunil can speak to some of what we're planning in terms of the AI and data services realm going forward. But I think that's also where there's a lot of potential revenue opportunity, until we get into a pilot and really understand it better and start to implement. I can't tell you what that's going to be, but I think that is an area for significant revenue potential.
Absolutely. That sounds great. And then I'm not sure. Oh, awesome. Thank you. I know it was a little tricky, but it's great to see you, Lauren, and Mark, you're off mute too. And if you'd like to join by camera, you can also. I also see some mention of some ancillary services. I'm not sure if Mark, if you want to speak to that, and then we can move forward to talk about this large market.
Sure. Well, I think Eric and Lauren captured it. It's a revenue model that builds from the basic service, which is measuring and delivering the real-time information that people need to make better decisions that helps them to avoid loss. And so when you think about how do you design a revenue model that does that, you have to work with the people who have product at risk. So when we think about the market, right, we're going to be going to the places where there's high value goods that should they not get to market in the condition that they're supposed to, or should they somehow be damaged, the proof that they were in the condition that you said they were is available to you. And that's sort of dispute resolution. You can put that down in the insurance level. We've talked to insurance, some insurance people about whether a solution like this might fit into the world of recall insurance, backup. That's something that we can continue, but first we have to know what our information can do for them that would potentially impact their underwriting fees. And then, and Lauren referred to it in terms of the tiers. We'll have basic customer service for people included in this system. The next level then is analytics that come at just from seeing what we have gathered and can work with people who are not seeing connections that they see today. And then the third level is bigger data sets, AI, that lets us not just work with our current customers, but go out and integrate into other large data sets for the purpose of creating value from the marketplace that we are operating in.
Oh, that's great. I really appreciate you shedding light on that. At its core, there's a big data analytics and kind of a consulting practice management around this. That makes a ton of sense. And I know, Lauren, I think we have to let you go off to another interview in a moment here, but thank you for hopping in and good luck with that. This is a good opportunity. Yeah, absolutely. This is a good opportunity to remind you, we're about halfway through our time. Please continue to use the Q&A functionality. We want to get this as engaging as possible. So please, I'll continue to ask traditional questions, but if you have something specific that's interesting to you, please do not hesitate to go into the Q&A. And of course, there's also question and answer functionality through the landing page, which is another opportunity to remind you that anybody can invest on netcapital.com directly into Transparent Path, and you can own a piece of this company. And that's a good halfway marker. But you mentioned earlier a really large market around waste management, especially food waste. Can you dig deeper into this specific market when it comes to food traceability, global food, the total addressable market, and things like that?
Sure. So it's a relatively nascent field. The studies that have been out there for, I should say, most of them have come out in 2020. As the supply chain kind of started to go sideways, you could see the research companies jump on that bandwagon and try to sort of quantify the problem. And I've got a response to some of the questions on the Net Capital site that should be up shortly that talk about how to do the research into this. It's not a vague bucket, but it's like a multiple Venn diagram set of circles, because traceability again is only one feature that is necessary that's offered by this idea of real-time supply chain visibility. If you search for supply chain visibility, supply chain collaboration, supply chain management software, supply chain analytics, those are really the four categories where people are using the same term for vaguely the same concept, which is how do I measure and manage my supply chain using the technology that's out there? And there's a wide range of numbers because of that. There's no significant number that we're seeing that is a no-brainer, but they're all at least 11 billion and up to 37 billion from Allied Market Research for this category. Now, are they all using the exact same criteria for each category? No, but we are one of those circles that overlap, right? So if you're looking to see what the CAGR is, or you're looking to see what kind of market growth there is, just a quick Google search of those terms, analytics, management, collaboration, and visibility, you'll find quite a few data points out there about what customers are seeing this market to be. And again, it's not just about traceability. I really want to pound that home, because you can do really cool things when you can see the supply chain in real time. You can do even cooler things when you can anticipate supply chain issues into the future. And many of these sort of supply chain visibility, supply chain management categories are focused on what's out there today, not what is coming. And that's why I'm so excited about this offer and what the team is bringing to the table. For getting better prices with the retailers, cutting the cost, anticipating big problems that could really hurt your business. Those are things that I believe make this a really exciting investment opportunity.
Absolutely. And long term, it'll be interesting to see what the commodities traders do with enough data like this. You talked about a relatively large and growing market, and there are a few players in the space right now. Can one of the team members dive into kind of what the competitive landscape looks like?
I'll jump in, not to short circuit anyone else. For example, we used to think our competitive landscape was IBM Food Trust, Ripe.io, sort of the blockchain for food crowd. When it was all about blockchain, that was true. But we're going so far above and beyond traceability. Food Logic is a great traceability company. They've got a solid platform, really well defined, a good customer base, working with big brands. But it's a sliver, right, of the overall opportunity that the sensors provide you. So we've kind of expanded ours. There are the big players like JDA, which is now Blue Yonder, which is taking their 20-year-old software and integrating some things. There are companies like Forkites, which is a formidable competitor that's doing something similar. They're a little bit newer, or younger rather, I should say. But no one is offering the printed sensor technology. The AI that we're seeing out there, the features are pretty much limited to either slideware or predictive ETA. When is the truck going to arrive at the warehouse so I can have my crew ready to have floor space for this load, etc. Those are great feature to have, but a tiny sliver of what is available. So Mark, Sunil, I don't know if you want to add to that at all.
I think, go ahead, Mark.
No, go ahead, Sunil.
So I think one of the key advantages, as Eric was pointing out, is the fact that there are separate companies that offer data analytics and so forth versus complete visibility and so forth, and we bring all of that together and providing insights into customers' own data that might be useful, such as, hey, which are the logistics or shipping companies that they should be using without running into any maintenance issues, that type of a thing. An eye in the sky type of an approach of trying to see, hey, if there is, due to weather or pandemic situation where some trucks need to be rerouted, you could do that in midstream when you have all this information. So it's a really futuristic way of thinking about how you can combine the data analytics, the complete visibility, and also how do we solve some of the issues that the food supply chain is dealing with.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add to that is if you start from the premise that data is disconnected and you start there versus starting with a legacy system that you're going to update, you get the opportunity to look at the current technology solutions that let you bring more data together more easily. And we're designing our system so that it can accept other people's information, can operate with other people's information, and that we can be interconnected, with all the privacy, security, and other issues around that covered. But that is a different approach than simply making one more module on top of what you already have, or solving a narrow problem that's the current problem. There are going to be significant issues around food safety, around food security, around regulation. You just keep going. And one of the things that's going to be required is verifiable information on what occurred and filed with the right authorities, both in the US and around the world. Our solution is starting in the US, but it's going to be compliant with global standards. So, and we'd love to have some opportunity to talk to people, outside the US. Right now, you really can't. I mean, COVID has had an impact in ways that everybody who is a consumer can see. But one of the things that it's done is it's made it a lot harder to deal with any kind of cross-border opportunities. You mean literally, you can't go to Europe, right? You couldn't go and talk to a customer right now if you wanted to. But we're designed it so that that possibility exists. So when I think about the competitive set, it's everybody who measures stuff, right? I mean, I could be really blasé about it and say, but in the narrow sense, it's the people who are trying to unearth these insights, like Kites, at a high level. There's somebody like an IBM, but IBM's focused at enterprise level operations, and that's beyond where we want to see our marketplace. And it's hard to know exactly who's going to be our competitor until we see what the integration of our sensors and measurement technology does for the people we are in business with. So it's when you listen to Eric talk about the market size and you realize the components that it breaks into, we know where we want to go. We're going to be led by our customers and where they think the highest value is, but we see multiple revenue streams that are possible out of this, out of our product.
Oh, absolutely. And speaking to that, only created Transparent Path in July 2018. Very, very quickly welcomed into several incubator programs, including Microsoft for Startups. And it looks like there's been just nothing but progress since then. Can some of the team members discuss some of the other kind of accolades and progress that you've been able to make over just the last several months, really?
I'll chime in. Our biggest incubator, more than an accelerator, has been the 5G Open Innovation Lab. And 5G is not a technology that's typically applied to food, but it really offers, it's not a required piece, but it's a helpful piece as 5G network adoption happens for our sensors. Because if you are capturing data from these little guys and transmitting that in real time, and let's say that, when we have millions of sensors out there, which are generating this data, we're going to need the bandwidth, not the speed, which is what everyone associates with 5G. We're going to need the bandwidth that 5G networks provide. So we're excited about that. And we got accepted in that accelerator. They connected us with Intel, who provided us with our sensors. Intel has been an amazing partner and mentor for us, working with us all through COVID, through the lockdowns to help us not only configure and provision our sensors, but to integrate with their systems and to better to include some of the functionality that they had created also. So that was one huge thing. We've also been introduced to potential angel round folks through the 5G Open Innovation Lab. So that's really been our number one thing. Microsoft for Startups, great. We get credits when we have a solution, when the solution is ready to be rolled out on a big scale. We have the opportunity to leverage their sales team to offer the Transparent Path platform through their sales force as well. So those have been the biggest things for us. We've been accepted into a couple of other accelerators that offered some cash and offered some mentorship, but they just weren't a good fit. They weren't worth the money that we would get. We don't need our hands held to get this business off the ground. And we opted out of those, but hopefully that answers your question, Eric.
And also, I do want to add that we also established partnership with T-Mobile as well as part of the 5G Open Innovation Lab. And also we're in the Amazon's AWS for startups and Google Cloud for startups and so forth. So we're part of as much of the programs that will take us that make sense from a business perspective on where we're trying to go, and trying to look at innovation and innovative approaches and trying to get us there. But at the same time, we're trying to stay core to our roots of social partnership and so forth that we're trying to establish and make sure that we're doing it the right way.
Absolutely. Progress in the right direction, not just any direction. Very,
Exactly.
very thoughtful. And part of the progress was bringing in some advisory board members. And I know we've discussed the management team. Can we speak to a little bit more about this new advisory board with Dan and Terry and Maria?
Sure. Maria is a longtime friend, former client of mine, who has been on the shopper marketing side, the retail side for Numi Organic Tea, Lighthouse Foods, Nature's Path Cereal. So she has a vast treasure trove of experience with what organic brands are looking to do. Organic brands are very interesting to us because they have something to prove. If they're going to charge an extra buck per product, there better be a proof that there's a draw there. 74%, according to a 2018 study, 74% of consumers do not trust the organic label. They think it's a bunch of marketing shtick. It's not. It's an expensive process. It involves auditors showing up on site and measuring plant health, livestock husbandry, et cetera. But the American consumers have lost a lot of faith in that. So organic brands, if they want to protect their margin, they need to prove that their certifications are what they say they are. Their product originated where it did, that no one tampered with it. It's not fraudulent. Food fraud is a $30 billion a year problem in the United States. Food diversion is a problem in the United States. And we're not even talking about high value perishables like maybe the COVID vaccine. So that's where this kind of platform would be helpful. So Maria's been just amazing in terms of contributing to us in terms of getting our offer and our messaging right for organic brands. So that's Maria. Dan Maycock is a well-known Washington State ag tech expert, former CIO for Allen Brothers, a big pack house here that ships worldwide. Now is running a lab for data for one of the world's largest hops producers, which is interesting to us also because Anheuser-Busch has reached out to us interested in ingredient tracking. So there's a really good synergy there as well. And then Terry Wakefield, our third advisor, is a former on-the-ground plant manager for Kraft Foods, Nabisco, Pepsi, old school. Lived the realities of food manufacturing for decades in terms of what's happening on the ground and what the challenges are for companies who are producing food. So really good, diverse set of people who are all kind of rock stars in their field.
Yeah, very, very interesting team, all kind of legacy brands. You've done a fantastic job of associating with really strong seller brands of doing the right work for a long time. If I may, before we move on to the next topic, you mentioned the organic component, and I'm interested in knowing, are some of the organic brands or some of the ones that are removing, especially preservatives? I mean, I guess it goes hand in hand with perishable, becoming more perishable. Is that part of the impetus with working with more organic and brands in that space?
It's not so much. It's really about proving those three things that we prove for everyone. Where did my food come from? How did it get to me? And what happened along the way? The organic brands, one of the things that we've been looking at is providing, and we see this with competitors like IBM Food Trust. We want to provide proof points about the food. Not, if there's a certification of that this was organically grown, sustainably raised, ethically sourced. And if that can be proven through certifications and making those certifications public, that's really interesting because that helps justify their higher cost. There's a coffee brand out of Sudan, a woman-led coffee business that is producing coffee for Starbucks, and it's $42 a pound. This is some expensive coffee. Well, is that real? Did it really come from Sudan? Is this company real? Are they certified? Those are the kind of things that we've looked into for our platform. One of the things that we came up with early on was a model called Proof Score, which is the more you share about your brand, the higher your proof score. So if you've got 2 heads of lettuce, for example, and one has a proof score of transparent, that the people who grew that food and shipped that food were willing to be transparent about it, and one that had nothing, you'd probably choose the one that had more proof points, right? And you might be willing to pay a little bit more for that. So that's a concept that we came up with early on for Transparent Path, and that's where organic brands really could benefit by proving their value prop more so than just making marketing claims.
That makes a bunch of sense. Yeah, I think you're right. There's a disconnect or a distrust in the consumer sentiment towards some of those claims, and being able to really validate that, I can go a long way. That's fantastic. We're coming towards the end here. Please continue to use the Q&A functionality. Thanks again for the panelists and all the participants for joining us today. And a reminder, and I'm going to continue to plug this, you can go directly to netcapital.com and search Transparent Path and invest for as little as $99. So you can effectively join the team and support this cause. As we continue to wrap up, there's one question that investors tend to ask: what's the big picture use of proceeds look like during this fundraise? And maybe we can allude to. I know we talked about a couple of future product development, and I imagine part of it goes towards that. But you want to just kind of broad strokes. Where's the money plan to go?
Mark?
I'll talk to that. There's three big buckets. The first is the continued development of the platform, and that is a combination of expansion of our product roadmap, and then taking on any new development priorities that come out of our pilots. The second is building out a sales and support infrastructure. We need customers. We have to go get them. We have to take care of them. And then the third is probably it's a mix of the kind of structural investments that you need to make as you get larger. It's just the biggest things like you have to get your legal, you have to get your accounting, you have to get all the things that make you a company who can withstand anyone's scrutiny. So for us, and then of course, we got to keep the team functioning. We got to keep our team together. So the big balance for us immediately is taking on what else makes our product competitive. What else has to occur in this near term to continue to go get customers? And that, I think in our net capital filing, I think that was 40% or so of where the money goes. So that's people, right? I mean, I'll sort of bring it down to the most basic level. Right now, you spend your money on getting the best impact you can get per dollar you have available. So we sort of rank it. Where is that? Well, there are many things I'd like to spend money on. I'm not going to, because they're not needed in the near term impact. Our dev is, right? Our ability to service customers is. And then running a company carefully, with a mind towards not spending on things that you don't see an impact for, but also not ignoring important parts of growing a business. All of us have grown up in different kinds of businesses. And one of the things we know is you don't want to get a question on your accounting, your legal, your regulatory filings, your state filings. You don't want to get any questions like that from your investors. It's why didn't you do that? And if my answer is, because I didn't want to spend $2,000 to do it, they're just going to look at me and say, well, that was a poor choice. And so I want all investors to always understand someplace in the background of a growing company has to be the beginnings of building a big company. And if you don't start with those beginnings, if you don't get them in place, you will fail. You'll fail. And you'll fail badly at the wrong time. So we're going to put those basics in place at an appropriate level. One of the great things about this distributed information platforms that we have today is we can tie into something where we only need it part-time, and we're either getting a resource part-time or we're getting access to a network of resources part-time for the level of problem that we have. So if you said, do we need a CFO? No, right? We don't need a CFO right now. Do we need CFO-like insights? Perhaps. So how do we go find those at a cost that doesn't tie us into a long-term commitment? So that's the balance of everything that we're going to do, and that'll be the way we operate for the foreseeable future.
Oh yeah, that I love hearing that. Given my legal background and being a member of a company that is a member of FINRA, regulated by the SEC, accounting, tax, legal, HR, compliance. These are things that sometimes are undervalued in the early stages of a company, but can become a problem in the larger stages. So happy to hear that, Mark.
We want to be a low cost. Think of us as we want to be low cost to regulators and to anybody who looks at our books. That means that we're doing the right things all the way.
Absolutely. I love that. And actually, on that note, this is the perfect time. Last couple of moments here. Looks like we've gotten to all the questions. Thank you again to our panelists and participants. I love a good old-fashioned closing remarks. Cover me old school, but maybe we could just kind of circle around and kind of like Eric. Maybe we can end with you, and Mark, you were just speaking, so maybe we'll go Mark, Sunil, Eric, and we can bring us home here. Why do you what big picture? What gets you excited about this in the morning, and why invest in transparent path?
It's a solvable problem, but it has to be broken down into small pieces to get to to the bigger solution. We are starting with the components of the solution, and we will build from that small base to something that we think is sustainable and has a global marketplace.
Absolutely. That's great. Very concise. Sunil, you want to come off mute and join us with your closing remarks as well?
Yeah. So, and I think the other issue, and the reason that I came over to Transparent Path is to help the farmers, get the most money that they can using technology, right? Basically, how can technology help make farmers' lives better by showing complete visibility from going from the farm all the way to the retail. And that also helps the consumer side as well, because they can see, okay, when a particular produce or meat or anything that has left the farm, what was its journey to the retail store? And basically it tells a story, and it's a very compelling story, right? And it's a good way of how do we include technology into the food supply chain, and how do we bring it all together where it benefits not only the farmers, but also all the way to the consumers as well. So that's what I think is a really good value proposition on why people should invest in a company that's trying to make that possible.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Sunil. And Eric, would you like to bring us home here?
Sure. So to Sunil's point also, the U.S. has seen a record number of farm bankruptcies this year. They were struggling before COVID. The trade battles, whatever your politics, the trade battles have not been easy for American farmers. And I'm hearing more and more stories about private equity firms buying up farms for the land. And this worries me a lot because, we've been this breadbasket for decades, and for us to suddenly have weakness in this area is not good. So I just wanted to add that about Sunil's comment about farmers and wanting to level the playing field for those folks by giving them access to this technology in addition to the bigger players. So that's one thing. Secondly, we know there's a market need. There was a market need before COVID. So, if you look at the Food Safety Management Act, FSMA, which was started under Obama, and less rigorously enforced under the Trump administration, but now going into Biden, probably will become more of an issue, again, more of a need. Companies need to prove some of the things that we do, cold chain compliance, freshness, non-diverted loads, et cetera. So even before COVID revealed these weaknesses, there was a growing need for this kind of thing. So that's why we think 2021 is going to be a big year for us. And then the fight. So there's a market need. It's gotten even bigger, and it's an area that we're all excited about solving. To Mark's point. And then the final thing I'll say is there's a reason we're called Transparent Path. We're pretty damn transparent. And that's a value that we place, because when you look at the growing misinformation that's out there on all sides, there's so much already to worry about in the world. We don't want your food to be one of those things that you worry about. So we want to know, where did it come from? How did it get to me? What happened along the way? And that's where not only do we subscribe to that as a basic tenet and value for our company, but that's what we want to bring to the world. Something that is, we don't want to bring marketing claims. We don't want to bring BS. We want to bring real tangible facts and proof about food and perishables to both the buyers, the retailers, and to consumers.
I think that was an excellent way to bring it home. I know that consumers, especially when it comes to food, are becoming more and more aware. They're consciously buying. They're rational, autonomous maximizers trying to consider all the information that they can. So really exciting that your team at Transparent Path is able to help provide that type of information for them. Again, thank you so much for the panelists, Eric, Sunil, Mark, and I know we had one on earlier, but thank you so much for coming on, answering our questions. Obviously, you've assembled a fantastic team working on a really a notable cause in a really thoughtful way. So thank you so much for our participants again, also for joining us. This will be recorded and shared on YouTube. You can share this generously, and do not hesitate to visit netcapital.com, search Transparent Path, and you can invest directly through the push of a button. So please welcome me and thanking everybody for joining, and everybody enjoy the rest of your morning or afternoon.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thanks. Bye now.